Hello everyone, welcome back to 3D Print Lab. Today we're going to be printing a video game model, and it is the Hoplite. Phase 1 is location, so we're going to be looking at finding this in the Supreme Commander universe. That's where the Hoplite is. Phase 2 is extraction. First thing we're going to do is go to the Forged Alliance Forever site, and we're going to look up the ID of the Hoplite. And we're going to go into the archive and extract out the level of detail 0 model, which is the highest detail model. And we're going to import it into Blender using the Supreme Commander Mesh import script. And export it back out as an STL to our desktop. I accidentally put in my documents. Just move it out of there. And we're going to open it up in MakerWare. Once we get into MakerWare, we're going to scale it up to the maximum scale that the printer will print. And we're going to go ahead and save it off as a scaled version. We're going to do phase 3, which is coordination. We're going to bring it into, we're going to check it in MakerWare, and we're going to look at where we're going to need support and what is going to just show up out of nowhere and won't print without support. There's a couple issues, a couple areas, but it is all supportable. First issue I see is that the main cannon is not connected whatsoever to the rest of the body. So we're going to need to make some geometry and boolean it so that it actually will be connected. Because otherwise it'll just print and fall and that'll be the end of it. So we're going to go back into MakerWare and check. And we're going to start putting our raft down and our support, our obelisk support. And once we put our obelisk support, we're going to do a little test, bring it back into MakerWare. And just check and make sure that it's going to look good. So, yeah, I mean, looks like it's going to print just perfectly fine. So we're going to have to keep going with this and support the rest of the leg. So I have to scale these correctly in order to get them to attach to the rest of the model. Okay. Just making sure that every point is indeed going to be supported. And it does look like it's going to work here. It did take a while to support this model. I think it ended up taking about an hour and 15, either an hour and 15 minutes or an hour and a half. I do believe that this is sped up 800%. So it did take a while. So now we're going to come in here into the middle part, and we're going to use a new support method that we have developed called an edge tab. And this actually isn't anything new to 3D printing, but it's just a 0.5mm tab that it just rips right off when you try to remove it. And later on in the video, I actually go back and make them thicker, and I actually space them 0.3mm away from the geometry of the robot itself. Because basically, essentially what that does is when you space the raft, or you space the support edge tab 1 layer height distance. So I think you have to change it if you change your slicing, but if you space it 1 layer off, which in this case would be 0.3 millimeters, it will force delamination, and when you go to derig it, you can just pop it right off because there's 1 layer missing. So that's a big thing. All support should have at least that 1 layer off, and really it'll make perfect support because it'll just pop right off. You know, I really wish that the MakerBot manual said something about that, but they, you know, I guess they're all about telling you how to use the machine and not how to prep the CAD. Prepping the CAD, you know, this is something they just didn't want to tell you or something. I don't know. I think what it is that, you know, MakerBot, they couldn't figure it out all themselves. They couldn't figure it all out. So they said, okay, we'll get 10,000 people behind this, and we'll get a community. Then we'll start figuring stuff out. Because, you know, it's impossible to figure out everything on your own, for sure. So we got all those main legs down there supported. We're moving up. We're adding a little bit. I added 2 little support rods for the sides so that they won't droop crazy. And then I determined that I'm not going to try to support any of that with inside of 3ds Max. When I go to support the upper sections, I'm going to be using MeshMixer because it'll just be easier. MeshMixer is easier in some cases. MeshMixer really excels when it comes to doing angled things. Although sometimes when it makes connections to the models, it's not perfect, and when you go to derig, it leaves something there. So actually, this is the first model where I really pushed using both. I used 3ds Max Obelisk support plus MeshMixer support, and it actually worked out really well. Combination of both of those things works really well because Obelisk support is really precise and it's easy to remove, and MeshMixer is the easiest to get into places that are difficult to get to. Rotating the little rods inside of 3ds Max is extremely difficult. So now I'm just gonna mirror some stuff and copy the leg support to each leg. I'm gonna boolean all the support together. So the first thing I do is I attach it and then I boolean it because it makes it easier to do that. It's also less risk of screwing up because every time you boolean something onto an object in 3ds Max, there's a tendency for the geometry to get screwed up for some reason. I don't know. Don't ask me, I'm not a CAD expert. Anyway, so now we're going to bring it into MeshMixer, and we're going to continue adding support. First thing we're going to do is try to support all this. And we're going to make connections to those obelisk rods that we left there that don't have full support yet. We're going to have to be supporting this front part as well. And we need to make sure that when we build these trees that they have more than one connection going up, because otherwise they won't be able to support their own weight and they'll break during printing. And then you'll end up with a big stringy mess that is terrible. And I remember the first Supreme Commander model I printed, it was the Cyber and Salem class ship with legs, destroyer, whatever it's called. And it took me 18 attempts to print it because I didn't know what I was doing. And that was way before Obelisk or MeshMixer or any of that I knew about any of that. So, but I did kind of learn a lot about making custom support. Conversion is up next. So I'm going to bring it through MakerWare. And see if we have any issues. It seems like it's going to work pretty well. And just checking it again. Phase 5 is production. Iteration 1. First iteration took 4 hours and 44 minutes, consumed 87 grams of PLA. Took quite a while. This was sliced in MakerWare without raft, and I regretted not using raft as soon as it started because a couple of legs started popping up off the build plate and I had to add little sheets of tape in order to keep them down, and it really didn't help too much. The leg on the left is all screwed up beyond repair, and there were some other issues with this build. I missed an entire section of support that was supposed to be on the front of the gun, and so I definitely had to do another build. Other than that, it was a decent build, but definitely not good enough. Iteration 2. I went back into 3ds Max and decided that, first thing I saw is that these legs were not connected at all, so I need to put in a rod to connect them. And when I went to de-rig the silver one, it just fell apart because there was no connection at all. So definitely went back and made sure there was connection between these. Something about video game models, I guess it's because the mesh would tear when they go to animate it, but they don't like to have connections between things that move. At least not with Spring Commander. And the turret was not connected either. I fixed that in the first version, but the turret had no connection to the main body. And that's just because when they make things rotate and animate, that they don't want to have to deal with the mesh being all weird. Actually, that might be the only way they can do it, is to have it separate. You could still put a rod in there or something, but you know, I guess they never thought the stuff would be 3D printed. Still waiting to somehow get a hold of someone from THQ that used to work at THQ or something and show them my work, but it's really hard to get a hold of people that did that. I know the only community I've heard of getting a hold of the original developers would probably be the Renegade X people. The Renegade X people actually got the attention of the people who used to work on Command & Conquer Renegade back in the day, on Twitter I think it was. That's pretty amazing. They said that their work is really amazing. Anyway, so now we're going to take our edge tabs and we're going to put in this little raft as a spacing, and we're going to put a 1-layer spacing between the model and the edge tabs in order to make sure that it will force delamination and it will be easy to remove when you de-rig it. So it's all pretty much ready, good to go. I did actually determine that I was going to make these things twice as big, as I said earlier. So I actually went back and manually made them a little bigger and had to move them down by 2.5 millimeters. So that took a little while to do, but it was worth it. I did actually make a big difference when I went to de-rig it, because I actually had something to grab onto. I also determined that I was going to need some more raft in order to hold the legs down. I went ahead and laid a copy. And I went ahead and unified the entire raft. And I went ahead and attached all these rods together using the attach tool. And then I bowleaned and then I attached all these edge tabs together. And it's nice to watch at 8 times speed because it took a long time to do all this. And I bowleaned it all together, and then you can make jokes about how it looks all you want, but whatever. Okay, so then Just made sure, actually, went to wireframe orthographic view. It actually helped quite a bit to align these things. And just went ahead and did the same thing here. And we did the same thing with this. Just attached all those. And I mirrored it, copied it and mirrored it over to the other side. There's a big thing in 3D modeling that you can reduce the amount of time you have to spend with things, and it's called mirroring. It helps a lot. Okay. So now we're going to bring it back into MeshMixer. Actually, we're going to go ahead and we actually did try to print it off, and we had an issue. I can't remember. Oh, the legs started breaking again because I think you can see on the right, if you watch the leg on the right, it breaks off somewhere. Yeah, there it goes, it broke. And that was because, oh yeah, that was because the legs come to a single point on their bases. I don't think I showed you fixing that, but I actually went back and made the tips of the legs, but I made them about 1 millimeter or 2 millimeters thick instead of coming down to a single layer of plastic, so that helped a lot. And I also went back in the next version and I added raft, MakerBot raft to the model as well. And sometimes you have to have 2 layers of raft, and that's just the way it works. So we're now back in MeshMixer, and we're adding the rest of the support. And having to do this twice is not pleasant, but whatever it takes. It's actually not too bad. These little extra bits of obelisks that are used to attach onto are extremely useful when it comes to actually trying to set this up. It's definitely something I'm going to be doing from now on. And actually, the marriage between 3ds Max and MeshMixer support is really nice. So you definitely need both kinds. So that's front part's all supported. Support this back part. And it does look like these rods are really thin, but they actually do print. It's pretty amazing. Get this all supported. Just make sure that we have some extra support in there. Last thing you want to do is have it break on you and then you come back and it's just a pile of mess. It does take a long time to prep models, but it's definitely worth it in the end because they only take 10 minutes to de-rig and it looks really nice. When you do 3D printing, you only do the automatic support once or twice and you realize how crap it is. There's got to be a better way. Anyway, so we're in here previewing it. It does look like it's going to print pretty nice. Oh, that's one thing. Oh, here we go. Now I'm showing it. I selected these edges for the tips, and you can see that they come down to like a single point, and that just does not print well. So I took all of them and I moved them down so the tips of the feet are a bit thicker, actually exponentially thicker, because they had no thickness. And okay. And so now save it off. We're actually going to bring it back into MeshMixer and add even more support. because I just don't want those feet to fall over during printing. And I think this really did help solve some of the issues here. You really gotta get a good foundation going. So it's printing off. It took 5 hours and 52 minutes. And yeah, this one came out really nice. There was, let's see, I don't think there was any issues with printing. There's one area it's hard to see. There's some raft stuck, or not raft, but support. There's some support stuck, and there's another area where I broke something, but I glued it back, and you should be able to tell. I don't know. It takes so long. I just don't want to print another one. Anyway, I could print another one, but which I might. I think I will print another one or paint it. So my brother said he wants to paint it, but that's his deal. Anyway. Okay, so here's me de-rigging it. It took quite a while. My camera actually hit the 4 GB limit for the file size and stopped recording. So you're going to see part of it, I guess. This is already 600% playback speed, so it took a while. But it did not want to break it, so I was very careful. I already broke it in one spot. But it's very minor and you can't really tell. Using my tweezers, using my nail clippers, using my spatula. Just being really careful. This stuff's not too fragile, but one wrong move and it will snap. Especially these feet. One of the little tips of the feet broke. Legs. But I went through first and I just broke off all the support holding all the legs first, and then when I screw with these tips, yeah, not too good. But a lot better than the last one. When I de-rigged the last one, there was like legs falling off, and it's kind of funny. It came out pretty nice though. Took a long time to do all this. For some reason it took like 3 or 4 whole days to print this model, film it, and it's a 25-minute video, and there's 128 gigs of pre-rendered footage on my hard drive. It's crazy. But it was a cool model. Here it is printed. Here's the silver one. Came out pretty nice. You can tell there's some stuff missing on the front there. And here's the bottom. It's just alright. And here's iteration 2. That's what I got out of after de-rigging. There was nothing there. Here's iteration 3. Looks pretty nice. And you can see that front's a lot better. And the bottom is way smoother than the other one. So anyway, thanks for watching. If you watched the whole 25 minutes, you're quite the fan. I will be doing more. Subscribe for more. See you next time.